November the 22nd, 2025. This year is gonna soon be over. Before I tell you, well, I'm going to read you a story. It's easier for me to read it than it is to try to remember it and tell it to you. I want to tell you about not a day or two ago, I got a message from one of my viewers, and she said, Pat, did you know that one of your little pearls is missing from your earrings? Well, by chance, those earrings were lying right on the table in front of my iPad, and I picked them up and looked at them. Yeah, there was one missing on one, but it was on the other earring. Well, I got to looking closer, and I realized they didn't match. They both had a big round white pearl and dangly like these. Big pearl right here, another little bitty pearl here, and they dangled. But I got to looking at them, and they're not the same pearl. One is a little bigger here than this one is. This one has the little pearl, this one does not. It occurred to me, I have two pairs of earrings almost alike, and I got one of each pair, and they were the ones I'd been wearing. She was right. They didn't match. Now, I don't know if you've ever done that before or not. So I answered her message and I said, yes, you're right. But if you'll notice, one has a bigger pearl than the other one does. You know what? I've got another pair just like these. So if you're watching, I hope you get a kick out of the mistakes we make when we dress. And you know, they say a woman is never fully dressed until she puts on her earrings. That brings me to my glasses. I ordered these glasses specifically for wearing with clothes that have brown and golds. You know, the sort of animal print look. I wanted a pair. So if you like them, I can give you the companies that you can order these glasses from. They can be found at 2 or 3 different companies. And if you'd like a pair too, these are my trademark glasses. The ones this is just say, when I go anywhere, this is how I get attention. People spot my glasses immediately, especially if the sun's shining and they're very, very glittery. I can't show you. I'm going to try to get it close enough that you see how pretty the little animal prints are around the edge of the glasses. All of my glasses are like this. I wear them especially for my YouTube channel. You can consider these Pat's trademark. So, I'm going to read you a story. I would tell it, but I can do better if I read it, because this is one I wrote several years ago. And you've heard parts of this story before. I may have even given the whole story before, but there are a lot of you who are fairly new to my YouTube channel that you haven't heard these things. Now, let me clear my throat first. I think you might enjoy this story, and it will tell you a lot about me. Wasn't it Marty Robbins that did the song, I Climbed That Mountain? I love Marty Robbins. This is what he says. It's been one hill after another, and I've climbed them, Lord, one by one. But this time you gave me a mountain I may never climb. It isn't a hill any longer. You gave me a mountain this time. I could pretty well apply that to my life. So I'm going to read to you, and I hope you enjoyed it. Oh, I'll have to. Okay. The calmness, the quiet, the peacefulness, the satisfaction. You feel it, but you know it won't last. It can't last. It wasn't written to be that way for you. Love was meant to last forever. I believe that. How innocent and naive I was. Our first new, simple, but modest house was the beginning of a dream. It happened so fast, it became a nightmare all at once. The front door opened, he carried his suitcase through the open door and then slammed it behind him. He was gone for good. I was in a daze. The end of my perfect marriage would become a hell on earth. I wasn't prepared for this. No formal education, no work history. I couldn't drive. I didn't have a car. I was new in town, didn't know anyone except my next door neighbor. I had 2 young children. How would we live? Child support wouldn't cover our living expenses. I had to get a job. My high school typing class saved me. I had good typing skills. But who would take care of my children while I worked? How would I get to and from work? Fortunately, a neighbor worked in a car dealership. One night after work, he took me downtown and helped me pick out a used car, one I could pay for, at $20 a month. The next day, the biggest and ugliest car I'd ever seen in my life was parked beside my house, a Dodge Matador. It had tail fins so long, the car looked like it was ready to take flight, and it was brown. What could be worse? 6 months, the car sat in my driveway, and I carpooled to work every day. Finally, I found someone to teach me how to drive. My first stroke of good luck. The lady took me out twice a week in her brand new Ford. After 30 days, I had my driver's license. Finally, I sat behind the steering wheel of my Dodge Matador, looked out the back window, and suddenly realizing, Lord help, this thing is as long as a Greyhound bus. But it served my purpose the next few years, that is, until I slid on ice and crashed into another car, hitting it from both front end and the rear of my car. That was the early years of life for me as a grass widow. I was not a happy grass widow, as my mother called me. It's difficult to be joyful when all you can do is keep your head above water while trying to make ends meet financially. Fortunately, let me get this Kleenex out of my pocket. I'm going to need it. Okay. Fortunately, I had a roof over my head with a low VA mortgage. I knew how to sew, so my daughter was kept in the latest styles of clothing. My social life extended to watching my son play Little League baseball, football, and neighborhood recreational basketball. The ups and downs came and went. The downs seemed to hang around much longer than the ups. There were no annual vacations. I cried a lot and lost sleep over the second-hand cars I couldn't afford to get fixed. Just once, I would love to have owned a new car, one that could be depended upon to drive 87 miles one way to my parents' home. That wasn't going to happen on my measly income. Jobs came and went. There were times I was 4 months between employment. The sleepless nights were always there. My 2 children graduated high school, and my son entered the university for the next 4 years. This was later on. It was time for me to make a move for myself. I was at a stage of job burnout. You know what that is. It was time to sell my house and move on, start a new life for myself. Things were beginning to happen, not necessarily for the best. First, my house caught fire. I spent 2 months cleaning out rubble, trying to salvage anything of material worth. I went months without the stench of smoke in my nostrils. I moved away, leaving my son behind in school and my daughter working and sharing rent with a roommate. When I drove up the street in the wintertime and smelled smoke, I looked ahead to see if flames were coming from my new house, which was actually an old house built in 1907. I was never comfortable, always waiting for the next tragedy. The wait came quicker than I expected. A year after my move, I was getting ready for the Christmas rush in my new craft shop located directly behind my house in the business district of town. I was in the kitchen watching Mork and Mindy. You remember that show? When I heard a knock at my back door. I opened the door to someone saying, "Smoke is pouring out the window of your shop. Call the fire department." The fire department was just a few blocks up the street. I kept a list of emergency numbers inside my kitchen cabinet door. I ran my finger down the list 3 times, and I couldn't seem to read anything it said. So I decided to take a chance on dialing operator. She answered on the first ring. I was very specific giving my information. I have a fire in progress at the corner of 5th and Kentucky Street. Send fire trucks immediately. The lady said, "Kentucky Street," as if it was something foreign to her. Now, Kentucky Street ran parallel to Main Street, the 2 major thoroughfares in town. And the fire department was about 5 blocks up the street from where I lived. I stammered, "Surely to God you know where Kentucky Street is." She replied, "Ma'am, do you want the Danville Fire Department?" Little did I know that the phone number 0 directed me to the main office in Danville, Kentucky. I yelled, "Danville, hell, I want Corbin Fire Department." As you can see, I was a bit excited. The lady said, "Stay on the line. I'm contacting the Corbin Fire Department." The trucks arrived within the next 5 minutes. It was drizzling rain and church services across the street had just ended. The people leaving the church lined up on my sidewalk in the rain. The fire inside the shop was extinguished, but my supply of Christmas crafts were all damaged. I had just reached rock bottom. I was thinking I should be getting used to it, but I wasn't. I had to start all over again. I couldn't afford to rebuild my small business, so that meant I had to go job hunting. Where do you find a job in a small town that would afford you living expenses? A year later, I found myself in Tennessee, working for the state of Tennessee. Oh, wait a minute. That put me another 70 miles farther from my children. My daughter had just married, and as time went by, my son graduated from the University of Kentucky and married shortly thereafter. The grandchildren came, 2 girls, 2 boys. There were occasional visits both ways. 19 years later, I had a job burnout a second time. You know those job burnouts, how they work. By then, I was sick of my job and ready for retirement. Life had little to offer in the way of pleasure. I had taken an interest in genealogy. It was time to record my family history. My basic knowledge of computers came to life, and I began research. I had become a senior citizen with nothing to show of my life's worth. It was time to turn that around. I wasn't about to leave this world without my name applied to something besides a tombstone at the cemetery saying, "I died trying." First, I entered a magazine decorating contest. It was something to do to fill my time, and I enjoyed decorating my house and creating my new ideas. So what if I didn't win the contest? I had plenty of free time to play at this game. You could never have convinced me a retiring lady from a small town could win a national magazine contest. But I did win. That was when I woke up and started to live. I went to England on the biggest ship sailing the oceans. When I called the Queen Elizabeth II a boat, I was quickly reminded that it was a ship and not a boat. The doors had opened for me. I met new people, very interesting and alive people who created new adventures in my life. It was my time to live life to the fullest. I finally had become contented and happy with my life. It had taken many years to reach this point. With encouragement from many friends, I began writing short stories. Stories about my ancestors, my family, and my daily life. I was enjoying every minute of every day. I returned to the city where my children were raised. I moved into a condominium, a place very suited to my lifestyle and circumstances. I was traveling and going places I had only dreamt about. At the same time, I wrote short stories, all of them true. I discovered there was a place for my style of writing, one story after another, and before long, I had written a book of 100 stories to which the average person could relate. People love being able to read a story about their own way of life. My story becomes their story. I am now an elder of the group called Senior Citizens. I am pleased to have been able to put my life stories to pen and paper. I like to think that I have helped preserve our history, our simple way of life here in Appalachia. To date, I have written 3 books. They have become reference guides for me. At times, when I become somewhat forgetful, I can open up one of my books and be reminded of people, a time, and a place. I no longer consider myself a senior citizen. I have joined the golden oldies, and I write stories for your enjoyment. That's where this story ended, but it is also where Chit Chat with Granny Pat began. It doesn't matter how many subscribers I have, I am more concerned with the number of viewers who watch me on YouTube day by day. I never dreamed my daily short story could have such an impact on my life. I have acquired a tremendous lifestyle, simple but satisfying, and a multitude of friends I could never count. I know you like me and enjoy my stories because you keep coming back. Finally, at the near age of 90, I have found my calling to bring a ray of sunshine into your life from day to day. What more could I ask for? Now I hope this story means a little something to you. It means a lot to me. It explains who I am, and what I hope to be. What I hope to be is the #1 grandma on YouTube. Is that asking too much? Well, it's not like I'm going to get the key to the city or another trip to England on maybe the Queen Mary too. Well, I wouldn't argue with that. But the one thing I like most is when you sent me your first response. Now, how long is this going to last? Will they continue watching me? Do they like me well enough? And then I see your password, I guess you'd call it, again. Ooh, that's good. And then you respond. That's even better. I'll soon be 90 years old, folks. And I think Jan believes I'm going to make it to 90. And if I do, she's going to give me a big birthday party. I don't know, it might be in the backyard. We may have to go out to her farmhouse and look at the deer and the rabbits. And the neighbors have cows. Maybe we could have a big party there. Or maybe one of the hotels would give us a room for one day. That shouldn't be too bad. And you could come and visit me, and we could see each other face to face, talk face to face, and really become good friends. Somehow or other, I almost have the feeling this could happen. And I can't imagine anything in my life that could happen that could top a 90th birthday party. So, we'll be talking about it a little here and there, and we'll get through Thanksgiving and Christmas. Well, I don't give any thought to Valentine's Day because that's for lovers. Then there'll be Easter, and the next thing you know, it'll be my birthday. Now, I keep saying it over and over so that you don't forget, and hoping that we can have a big birthday party and we can all celebrate. This is probably one of my shortest videos, but I think it's one of my best. I've given you a breakdown of my life history. That is, after I grew up and started having children. So now you know all there is to know about me. I can pitch a fit once in a while. I'm usually a pretty nice person. It takes a lot to make me angry. And the advantage I have there is I live alone and nobody has to listen to me fuss. Jan knows not to call me when I'm in the mood like this, but she's awfully good to me, and she's a darn good party planner. So all of you get together, give a little thought to giving Granny Pat a birthday party, and I'll let you try on my glitzy glasses. I didn't get them all out because I think they're scattered all over the house. I have one or two pair in the bathroom, at least a pair in the kitchen, because you never know when you got to read something. So you need to have your glasses handy. So take a look at these again. These are my latest glitzy glasses. Granny Pat's trademark. Thank you for watching me, and let me know what you think about my story.